Hello everyone, and welcome once again to the vast and ominous comic book vault. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Jayson.
Jayson is here with me today to review some brand new comic books. We're going to do new acquisitions, and this is the first time we've done new acquisitions in a couple of weeks. Finally, the vault is back, and thanks for bearing with me during the move. We're back. We're going to do 2 weeks full of comic books, so 10 new comic books, and I've kind of coalesced these, so I'm not going to do like 5 of this week and 5 of last week. I've just mixed them all in. We're going to bookend them with Star Trek, and Jayson is going to help read off the titles. He really wanted to do the vault with me today, and Jayson actually goes with me to the comic book shop every week, and he helps me get my comics and sometimes pick stuff. And I am actually planning, starting next week, to do a little bit of a new segment on the vault where Jayson picks a brand new comic that is not on my pull list just by looking at it, and I'm going to review some new random things just picked by Jayson. So I'm going to try to do these a little bit more rapid fire than usual. I got 10 books to review, and let's go ahead and get right into it right now. Jayson, what is this? Star Trek, what does this say?
Hive.
Yeah, here's Star Trek The Next Generation Hive #1. This is written by Brannon Braga, and script is by a couple of different guys, Terry Matalas and Travis Fitchett, with art by Joe Conony. I'm sorry, is it Coroni? Coroni. That's a name I don't know. This is one of those very, very typical Brannon Braga kind of stories, and it's kind of fun to see Braga in comics, and a little bit refreshing, even though I might have gotten a little bit tired of them a little bit here and there in some of the Star Trek series, to see this kind of storytelling back, and these kind of big, outlandish, nearly fanfic type stories where Braga kind of looks into a crazy future that has happened and that has to get fixed, and I'm sure things will get set right back to status quo by the end of this, but while you're reading it, it's fun to see what crazy, outlandish things he can come up with. Braga did a lot of these kinds of stories, especially time travel things, where by the end of the episode, all the stuff that happened within the episode never actually happened, and it looks like this is probably no different. The basic premise is in the 29th century, 400 years or 500 years from what we're used to in the Next Generation. The Borg have taken over everything, and even though the Borg have managed to take over the entire galaxy, they're not they're kind of bored, and they're not happy with how things have gone, because they might have taken over everything, but after all, that's not really what they're about. They're about perfection, and they don't feel like they've achieved it. We've got King Locutus working with the Borg Queen, and apparently Picard got reassimilated into the Borg Collective, and being Borgified again has allowed him to live for 500 years. And it never occurred to me that that might work with the Borg, that the cybernetic components could keep the human components alive for that long. I think that's kind of an interesting idea, and as crazy out there and outlandish as this is, I do appreciate the fact that Braga's trying to do some story stuff with this, that he's playing with some science fiction ideas. What does perfection really mean? Is takeover the same thing, is conquest the same thing as perfection? Clearly it's not. The Borg are not satisfied. And so, not to give too much away or anything, but we travel back to the, we go back to the 24th century, and Picard, or Locutus, has this big plan to go back to his former self. Anybody thinking Endgame a little bit? To try to solve what he thinks is the problem of the collective in the 29th century. One thing I think is a little bit strange is just that Braga went to the 29th century. We've been there before with Voyager, and it's odd that that's the one that he picked, considering that that's where Time Fleet and the time ships are, and they go around trying to fix the timeline. So it's really odd that that's the one that he picked for the time that the Borg have taken over everything. I might have gone farther than we've gone before in Star Trek. I might have gone to the 32nd or 33rd century, considering we've even been to 31st with Enterprise. So I wonder if he's going to tackle that at all. I would be really surprised if he did. But really, like, how does, I mean, I don't mean to be that, I don't mean to nitpick, but I really wonder about it. It's like, okay, did Time Fleet Does Time Fleet exist like after this is all fixed and then we get Time Fleet, or did something happen in the past that made this future that wasn't supposed to happen? So anyway, it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. We got 7 of 9 in this. We got some other surprise characters, and it's crazy out there. But I can't wait to see more. There's also this really great variant cover that I've already special ordered because I've got to have it for issue 2, where it's Locutus sitting in the Lincoln Monument. I think it's hilarious. I can't wait to get my hands on that. Next up, we're going to go into 3 Ultimate books. And Jayson, what's this one called? SpiderMan. Yeah, this is SpiderMan number 5 of 5. This is one that I have not really cared for. I've made no bones about that. There's really not a story here, and I haven't been really excited about it. I'm not going to talk too much about this. People know how I feel about Spider-Man, and the ending is pretty much what I expected. We've got Mysterio, and he's trying to trap one Spider-Man in the other Spider-Man's dimension so that he doesn't have to deal with any Spider-Man. Ultimately, of course, he ends up having to deal with both of them, and if there had been more the Spider-Man having to deal with Mysterio through this whole thing, it might have worked, but it seems like that's pretty much just an excuse to make these two get together and to have all these moments of them freaking out about the fact that there are Ultimate Universes and that there are 2 Spider-Man. I'm going to be doing a review of this whole thing with Toy GNR 1 here pretty soon, and so I'm not going to go too far again into this. We'll be delving into it later on, but I will say that I really like the ending. It wasn't worth 5 issues. I really think that what was revealed by the end, or kind of revealed for one of the 2 universes, I won't even tell you which one, could have been put into a book someplace without us needing this. It is a really cool idea though, and I really do like how this ends. So I'll give it that. The ending is really cool. Next up, Jayson, what's this one called? Ultimates, yeah, this is Ultimates number 16. Now, I don't read Ultimates usually, but I had to get my hands on the book where Captain America gets sworn in as President of the United States. I didn't know how I could not have that cover in my collection. This was my favorite thing I read this week. Wow, was this great. Captain America becomes President of the United States and leads by example. He says, I don't care what the President is supposed to do, I'm going to lead by example. I'm going to go out and I'm going to stop all of these various crazy sects that are taking over different states and making them secede from the Union, and I'm going to see how much of this I can solve in a single day. And it's not that he's just working alone or not working with people, but he doesn't want to be that kind of president that just sits behind a desk. His whole point for allowing himself to be sworn into office, and of course this wasn't his idea, and this happened all at once in the middle of a crisis. He doesn't even have a vice president yet, and there's a lot of questioning about who that's going to end up being. But he says, yes, I'll be the president, but I'm not a politician, I'm a soldier, and he continues being a soldier. This is so Captain America. Whether you're used to the Ultimate Captain America or to 616 Captain America, this is so vintage, regular, awesome Captain America. And there is one moment I'd like to mention at the risk of spoilers, because it's such a great line, and I hope might entice some folks to pick up this book if they weren't going to, where Captain America is asked by someone, "Are you going to live in the White House?" And he says, "America is my White House." Boy, this is good stuff. It's really fast-paced. There's a lot of wonderful, wonderful action and a lot of really good ideas, especially Captain America having to fight against politicians that are kind of corrupt and are wanting him to just sit behind a desk and let them make all the choices for him. And of course, he's not going to have any of that, and so he's got problems on both sides, on the politician side and on this war he's having to fight. And we also finally learn here why this United We Stand thing is happening in the first place, why America is falling apart, and it has to do with some earlier Ultimate lore that I wasn't even aware of. I won't give away what that is, but it's great, and you totally should read it. Next up, what's this one, Jayson?
Spider-Man.
Yeah, Ultimate Spider-Man. This is Ultimate Comics All New Spider-Man number 15, and this is dealing with Miles Morales having to talk with his parents about the death of his uncle, and of course his uncle was the Prowler. And they, of course, don't know that he's Spider-Man. What ends up happening is we get Detective Mariah Hill, who used to be a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, is now a detective, and has come in, and she's great, by the way. She comes in and is trying to figure out as much as she can from Miles Morales about what happened with the Prowler. And, of course, he doesn't tell her anything, and his parents are trying to get her to leave and not involve him in the middle of it. It's a really tense situation, and really fun to read. It's kind of... It's another one of these issues that's kind of, in the middle of everything, so it's not a really great place to jump on, of course. It's kind of, right in the middle of everything. But really, if you haven't been reading Ultimate lately and you're interested in this United We Stand thing, pick up Ultimate 16. I think that's a great jumping on point for the United We Stand stuff. And even if you don't read... any more of it, it's great all by itself. Obviously, Ultimate 15, Ultimate Spider-Man number 15 is kind of in the middle of this big giant arc that's been going from the beginning, and it's really hard to read much of this without starting from scratch. Next up, what's that one, Jason?
Venom.
Venom number 25, the end of Cullen Bunn's the first arc on Venom, rather. And once again, I don't want to be a broken record, but I haven't been real thrilled with this first arc. It's okay, but it's the it's the occult stuff. And Cullen Bunn, I've talked with him before, and he loves the occult stuff. It's his favorite thing. And so I wasn't surprised at all that he decided to go back into Circle of Four to revisit that story. He does do a bit more character stuff here than he has been before. There's this really interesting moment where in combating some of these demons, Venom or rather Flash, is trying to remember like good happy moments in his life, trying to combat these things, and ultimately realizes that perhaps he doesn't really even have any big happy moments, and that's kind of sad for him. There's also some setup for the Minimum Carnage arc, which I'll be reading, which is going through a few different books, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Carnage, because I haven't really loved the last couple things that Clayton Crane has done with him, and I really hope that Minimum Carnage, which I just think is a hilarious idea, shrinking Carnage down and calling it Minimum Carnage. I'm really interested to see where that goes. So anyway, this one was a little bit lackluster for me. Maybe it might be more of other people's bag. I thought it was written just fine. I'm just not real big into the big hellfire, Hellstrom stuff. Next up, what's that one, Jason? Daredevil number 18. Now, I don't know if I've ever said this on camera, but I have been saying this a little bit to folks that I know. If I were, right now, to have to get rid of most of my comics on my pull list, and I was only going to read two things, it would be Daredevil, and it would be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And both of those we're talking about this week, and that has not changed with both of these. Goodness, is this good. Foggy Nelson and Matt Murdock have been at odds since a couple issues ago, when Matt had some of his father's remains in his office, and Foggy found them. And Foggy thinks that he did it on purpose, but that maybe he's kind of lost his mind, doesn't remember it. From our perspective, looking from Matt's side, Matt has no idea how it got there. And this is kind of the last straw for Foggy, who's been afraid that Matt's been kind of out of his mind for a while now. And I think that Wade is really taking this to kind of its furthest extreme. Foggy is done with Matt right now, and looking at the tension between them is extremely interesting and really, really sad. Basically what happens here is we get the return, it seems, of Matt's ex-wife, who had gone insane, which, of course, is interesting since people are thinking that Matt has gone insane, and went into a mental institution. And she appears to just show back up and not remember anything that happened with her going nuts and going into a mental institution. And so Matt asks for Foggy's help, and Foggy says, "Yeah, I'll help you with this one sensitive situation, but after that I want you to lose my number." And it's, again, it's absolutely fascinating and really sad, really heartbreaking, and we're right in the middle of a very, very human arc. Not a great deal of action in this, doesn't really need it. It's very dramatic and really, really heart-wrenching. Speak of the devil, the next thing is, what's that, Jason?
Ninja Turtles.
Ninja Turtles, yeah. Here's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 14. Maybe my favorite issue so far of this series. I don't want to say too much about this because I'm afraid of giving away things that I kind of geeked out a little bit when I saw them on the page. All I'll say is there is a great moral conundrum going on with Splinter about whether or not it's ever okay to kill someone. To go right out and kill someone versus having to do something in self-defense, and that has to do with Casey Jones' father from the last issue. The last issue ended with it looking like maybe Splinter was going to kill Casey Jones' father. Really, really tense stuff. And then bringing in some really great Dimension X Krang stuff from the 80s cartoon show and finding a way to blend it into this and making it serious. It's great. I don't want to say anything about it. You should be reading the show or this comic if you like Turtles at all. And Dan and I both said when we reviewed the first several issues of this that we think this is the maybe the best incarnation of Turtles ever. And I'm still saying that it's fantastic. Next up, Ghostbusters! This is Ghostbusters number 13. And again, I don't know how to talk about this without giving away the coolest thing that happens in it that's setting up this next arc. What I should say is this is a great jumping on point now that we're done with that last 4-part arc about the Ghostbusters traveling around the country. They're back in New York now. Janine goes out on a date with a guy to an opera. And there's a ghost there that the Ghostbusters show up to attack, except it's not the Ghostbusters. That's all I'm going to say. Read this. It's really fun. It's really interesting. And this is really a cool place for Ghostbusters to go. And I should talk more about this, but I'm not going to. Just read this book. It's very, very, very good. Next up.
Batman.
Yeah, Batman Incorporated, number 0. This, just like all the other 0 issues for DC, is about going back to before the stuff that we've read so far in Batman Incorporated and filling in some gaps for us. This, I would say, is a great book to pick up if you are confused about Batman Incorporated or if you haven't read any of it at all. It's very much a one-shot. You can read it all by itself, and it kind of goes through the inception of Batman Incorporated from a boardroom level at Wayne Enterprises all the way up through Batman on a street-level sense going out and recruiting. And we see him recruit a lot of different characters into Batman Incorporated, including Knight and Squire and Man of Bats and some of these people that we've seen before, and some people that maybe we've seen before but I didn't really remember. It's not a real cohesive story so much as a lot of snapshots of the beginning of Batman Incorporated. I think it's definitely worth reading. For me, it kind of refreshed me more than it told me a lot of new stuff. But I'm glad that I read it. The art is really interesting. It's very minimalistic, and there's a lot of really strange inverted color things going on. I'm not sure if I loved it, but I did find it interesting. But it didn't. It also didn't stand out too much to me while I was reading. I didn't have any problem getting through it, even though it had kind of this sort of odd artwork. It's the same artwork we've had, but I think the coloration was a bit different. Finally, what do we have here, Jayson?
Doctor Who.
Yeah, Star Trek: The Next Generation, Doctor Who number 5. This issue is really simple. It's Doctor Who trying to convince Captain Picard to work with the Borg. The end. The Borg and the Cybermen are going at it, and the Borg want the Federation's help in defeating the Cybermen. Doctor Who thinks that they need to hear them out because the Cybermen are scarier and more ruthless than the Borg from his perspective, and this is all about us watching the Doctor try to convince Picard of this. My biggest complaint about this is what it's been through a lot of this, which is this is an 8-issue series, and I feel like there's way too much sitting around and talking and not nearly enough stuff going on, not near enough action. And I don't mean to complain too much about action in the middle of a Star Trek Next Generation story, but on the other hand, that was a show where there was a lot of sitting around talking. Having said that, I feel like a lot of this is more exposition and kind of rehashing the same arguments as opposed to like really really thick moral conundrums, which were the best points of Star Trek just being a people sit around and talk kind of show. There's also this whole 2-page section that's really well painted by Woodward. That's a lot of fun to look at. But this whole 2-page section recapping Best of Both Worlds. I don't know that I needed that. I certainly didn't need that. I know what happened in Best of Both Worlds, and I imagine most people that would pick this up know enough about Star Trek to get, yes, Picard had a thing about with the Borg in the past. You know, I suppose there's every possibility that Doctor Who fans might pick this up and not know anything about Star Trek, but that's the only reason I could figure that would be there. I thought it was filling time and didn't really need to be there. But yeah, this sits still a little too much for me. It picks up toward the end with some, I won't give it away, but a couple of really fun and amusing panels of the Cybermen doing crazy things, and Picard going into the TARDIS and traveling through time. So anyway, that's all I have to say about that one. Jayson? Which one's your favorite? Which one's your favorite? Do you know? Well, anyway, everybody, thanks a lot for watching the Comic Book Vault. And while Jayson's sitting here trying to decide which of these covers is his favorite cover, I'll tell you this: if there's anything you'd ever like to donate to the Comic Book Vault, or let me borrow, you can always send that for me to review to the Comic Book Vault. That's Geekvolution, P.O. Box 14183, Lenexa, Kansas 66285. I review single issues, trades, miniseries, all kinds of stuff. Feel free to do that, and just be sure to send me a personal message first, then to see if I already have it. Jayson, which one's your favorite? Can you pick one? You like this one?
Yeah.
Yeah? Star Trek Hive? It's green and colorful. Anyway, thanks again, everybody, for watching the Comic Book Vault. I will hopefully be back with you with another daily Comic Book Vault tomorrow. Hoping to get back into the daily Comic Book Vault swing of things. Once again, thanks a lot. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm so.
You're Jayson?
I'm Jayson.
We'll see you next time.